Okay. Hi, my name is Jesse Sampson, and this is my presentation about fur. The more I researched and observed fur, I started to understand the huge amount of variation in fur when comparing different species. Because of this, I chose to focus my study mostly on dogs and cats. But certain general facts apply to most animals. But even among dogs, there are so many differences in the kinds of fur that it's impossible to go over every factor. What I can discuss is the underlying biology of fur and the way that affects the patterns I notice among general types. That way, you could use these general observations to approach the way you draw. Hair, or fur, grows from the dermis in the skin. It's made of an extremely strong protein called keratin. A single structure of hair is called a follicle. In the follicle, you've got a shaft, a root, and a bulb. The shaft is the long portion you can see, and the root is the base of the follicle. The bulb is at the core of the root, and that's where cells form to make fur grow. The shaft is made of three parts: the cuticle, the cortex, and the medulla. The cuticle is the outer layer of the shaft that serves as protection. The shinier it is, the healthier the fur. The cortex is the middle layer that contains pigment. It determines the bulk and strength of fur. The hollow core of the shaft is the medulla. The medulla is larger in animal fur than in human hair, allowing fur to diffuse more light than hair. You should think of the strands of fur as cylinders. They catch a highlight, where the light reflects directly off of it, and gradates towards the shadow side. For drawing, an important difference between animal fur and human hair is that fur often has compound follicles. This means that each follicle has multiple hairs, one primary or guard hair, and several secondary or underhairs. Guard hairs compose the guard coat, which protects the animal's skin and keeps it waterproof. The underhairs make up the undercoat, which is soft, downy, and keeps the animal warm. The guard coat is a layer you see on the surface of the animal's fur. Generally, it follows the contours of the body and gives it its smooth appearance. It is thickest on the back of the animal. The undercoat is the shorter inner layer. Because of this, the animal's skin should rarely be visible. It is a short, fuzzy layer of constant length. When puppies are born, they only have their undercoat and grow the guard coat as they age. The third kind of fur is tactile hairs, or whiskers. They're also on the eyebrows and chin of most animals, not just the cheeks. Tactile hairs are wider and generally longer. They are more likely to catch a highlight because of their relative position. The color of fur is determined by chemical pigments called melanin and pheomelanin, found mostly in the medulla. Melanin makes fur dark brown or black. Pheomelanin makes hair lighter, blonde or red. In human hair, the pigments are distributed evenly, but in animal fur, the pigments are distributed in patterns called banding, which allows for a radical change in color within a short distance. So in painting longer fur, you might notice that the color might be light at the end of the strand and get gradually darker closer to the skin, or vice versa. Sebum is a chemical that is responsible for fur sheen. The amount of sebum varies between breeds and species. The more sebum, the shinier the fur. There are two basic approaches to consider when drawing long fur versus short fur. When drawing animals with short fur, like a Great Dane or a horse, it's important to observe the underlying muscular anatomy of the subject because the fur closely follows the contour of the muscles. Knowing the physical structure of the animal prepares you to draw the animal dimensionally. The shape of edges is determined by the strands of fur, and often creates a jagged edge of contrast. These jagged edges also apply to the way you would draw the highlights, which are easier to see in short-haired animals. Illustrating the contrast between light and shadow in short will make your drawing read more like fur rather than bare flesh. When drawing long hair, you should think of it like grass. You don't attempt to draw every single blade. You squint to find the points where certain tufts of fur are caught under the shadow of surrounding fur. Find dark areas where the undercoat is exposed because of the angle of the fur, especially where the fur might be perpendicular to your eye. Add highlights to the strands that are closer to the surface for animals with silkier fur. Really pay attention to the direction of the layers of fur to capture the way the fur gradates. That concludes my presentation about fur. I hope I was able to teach you something. Bye!